Okay, so we are working on section 4.5. This is talking about different kinds of measurements, and we are talking about just customary measurements today. So customary measurements are basically kind of like our English measurements. That's kind of what we're going to do, not metric. So this table here are benchmarks to help you understand fluid ounces, tons, and other customary units of measurement. We measure length, width, or weight, and capacity. Capacity is how much something holds. Weight is how much it weighs. And then length would be the actual units of something. So customary measurements that you guys are familiar with would be inches, feet, and miles. Those are going to measure how long something is. Customary measurements that measure weight would be ounces or pounds. That's how we would weigh ourselves. And tons, that would be how much, like a large animal or a vehicle, those types of things would be weighed. And then capacity would be how much something can hold. So we measure things like when we bake or cook with cups. Our milk is measured in a gallon jug. Fluid ounces, they tell you that you're supposed to drink how many fluid ounces a day, those types of things. So these are measurements that we use. Then they give us the benchmarks. They say, okay, about what is an inch? How do you relate that? Well, it's a paper clip. A foot is about a sheet of paper. Now, this isn't exact. This is just a rough. Mile, the length of 4 laps around a track. A slice of bread is about an ounce. 3 apples is about a pound. And a ton is the weight of a buffalo. So one thing that has made things like a cow is always almost a ton, a really big cow. So that gave me a reference when I was like, well, how much is a ton, Or if they say, oh, it's 4 tons. Okay, well, what is that? That's like 4 really big fat cows. So that was one thing that I actually did use in my own brain. 2 tablespoons is about a fluid ounce. A measuring cup, like a pitcher measuring cup when you're cooking, and then a gallon, I think of a gallon of milk. So these things are references that we can relate to our real life, so give you a better idea of what it looks like, okay? So this says choose the most appropriate customary unit of measurement for each to justify your answer. So we're just gonna kind of talk through these. So if you had to measure a rug, would you use inches, feet, or miles, and why? What do you guys think?
Because it's not too short to walk.
Right, probably feet, because would you want to take small paper clips and line them up? No, okay. So if it was a bigger rug, you would definitely probably use feet. We're just gonna like I said, we're gonna talk through these. You wouldn't obviously go around a track, to measurement. The weight of a magazine. So do you think it's closer to ounces, pounds, or tons? Apples?
Probably
ounces. Bread, slices of bread more so. Okay. Capacity, so this is how much something holds of an aquarium. So do you think you'd fill that aquarium with tablespoons, with measuring cups, or milk jugs? James?
jugs.
Yeah, you'd probably use gallons. So this is how you're going to kind of go through these and think about what would you use to measure them. So the weight of a car, would you measure it with slices of bread, apples, or buffaloes? Buffaloes, so that means that we're going to use this with tons. The diameter, so diameter is the distance across a circle, so the diameter of a soup can. So would you measure that with sheets of paper, laps around a track, or small paper clips? Paper clips. The soup can is about the size of this jar, so where diameter would go across it. So you would probably use paper clips. So that would be inches. Length of a pen cap. Again, something not very large if you're looking at a pen cap. Inches. And the capacity of a jar of peanut butter. So that's how much a jar of peanut butter is going to hold. Would you measure it with tablespoons, measuring cups, or milk jugs? Probably cups. It'd take a lot of tablespoons.
It depends, because peanut butter jars are all different.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Probably a standard peanut butter jar is pretty large, or whatever. Yeah.
It'd be pretty hard to get a really small one where it'd be easier to use 20 ounces.
I agree. Yep.
That'd be fancy peanut butter.
Right. Gourmet, right? So this is just kind of getting you, like, if you had to go measure something, to take the appropriate unit of measurement, to use the appropriate unit, and to take the right tool. You know, if your dad said, oh, hey, go figure out how far it is to the mailbox, you're probably not going to take a small 12-inch ruler out there, right? That would take you a really long time. So you might want to find a different way to measure. So the next way is converting between customary units of measurements using a proportion or multiplying by a ratio. And we're going to work a lot with this multiplying by a ratio. So it doesn't matter to me which method you use. I'm going to actually show you both. So this one we're going cups to fluid ounces, and I gave you these over here to show you the relationship. So like right here, if you see we have 8 fluid ounces is 1 cup. So this is what we can use. If I have 19 cups, I want to know how many, so I'm going to say X fluid ounces. That's my question mark, kind of. So I'm going to use a proportion for this one. Well, if I have 1 cup, so I put that on the top, then that would be 8 fluid ounces. So in this one, if I were using a proportion to solve, I would take 8 times 19 and I would divide it by 1. So 8 times, oops, not divided by, times 19, and I get 152. So that means that 19 cups holds 152 ounces. So that one, like I do, when you're just going from one unit to the other and you know the multiplier, it's pretty simple to use like a ratio. Some of you guys probably can just multiply that in your head. The other way to do it is, this was using a proportion. The other way to do it is multiplying by a ratio. So you start with the 19 cups. So I'm just going to draw a line here and show the other way. We're going to multiply, I'm not putting an equal sign there, by a ratio. The ratio is the relationship between ounces and cups. So in 1 cup, there are 8 ounces. So basically what happens here is my cups will cancel. 19 times 8 is 152. The label that's left is ounces. It's kind of like multiplying fractions. So this one is multiplying by a ratio. This one is using a proportion. We are gonna, if the ratio doesn't make sense, don't worry, because we're gonna do a ton with this going forward. We're gonna do lots of work with these. So if you're only switching from one unit right to the next one, I like using the proportion actually. So if I had 5,000 pounds, I want to know how many tons. That's our question mark. So, pardon?
I already know it.
Okay, that's okay. Sometimes with big numbers or small, like weird numbers, you might not know, so I just want you to know how to set it up, James. So James, what do you know about pounds and tons though?
There's 2,000 pounds in a ton.
Right. So if our question mark, you just told me there are 2,000 pounds in 1 ton, you actually have to divide, right? So 1 times 5,000 divided by 2,000, what do we get?
1 times what?
Well, if you take 1 times 5,000, then you've got to divide it by 2,000. So how many tons does it turn out to be? 2.5. That's right. Some of them you will not need to do a proportion. You will be able to do them in your head, and that's okay. They're going to get harder, I will warn you. The last one is 24 pints to cups. So if I have 24 pints, I want to know how many cups is this going to be. So that means that I know that there are 2 cups in 1 pint. So there are 2 cups in 1 pint. So cups went on the bottom with, this is a proportion. This is not a ratio, or multiplying by ratio. So 2 times 24 divided by 1. So that would give us 48, sorry. 24 times 2 divided by 1. Okay, so I am going to do one more just using my ratio, multiplying by the ratio method. I'm going to do it with the 24 pints. So you start with 24 pints, and I'm going to put that over 1 just to make it look like a fraction because we're going to do some multiplying here. So we're multiplying by this ratio, but I have to put the cups on the top and the pints on the bottom, and the reason I have to do this is because when I multiply, I want pints to cancel. And they cancel if they're across from each other. And then you would take 24 times 2, and we get 48. 1 times 1 is just 1. So your answer is 48 cups. Now, I know that this ratio, I wanted to show you the two different ways. I know that most of the time you guys are going to be able to do these methods, the proportions method, or you're going to be able to figure it out in your head. But we are going to move into using these ratios to solve, okay? They're called conversion factors, actually.